You are already losing. Not because you are weak, not because you lack ambition, but because there is a part of you that you have spent your entire life trying to hide. A part that feels anger, a part that craves power, a part that refuses to be controlled. You buried it because the world told you to. From the moment you were young, you were taught that being good meant being harmless, that real strength meant staying quiet, that anger was dangerous, that ambition was selfish, that saying no made you arrogant. So you smiled when you wanted to fight. You apologized when you had done nothing wrong. You sacrificed yourself, hoping the world would finally reward your kindness. But it never did. Instead, it asked for more. More of your time, more of your energy, more of your silence. Until one day, you looked in the mirror and realized you no longer recognized the man staring back at you. Because the strongest part of you had been locked away for so long, it had become a stranger. Most people think their greatest enemy lives outside them, a manipulator, a narcissist, a toxic relationship, a cruel society. But Carl Jung believed something far more unsettling. He believed the greatest danger is the part of yourself you refuse to see. He called it the shadow. Not because it is evil, but because it lives in the dark, hidden beneath the personality you show the world, hidden beneath the mask you wear every single day. And whether you realize it or not, that hidden part is already controlling your life. Every time you stay silent when you should speak, your shadow grows. Every time you suppress your anger, it finds another way to escape. Every time you betray yourself to gain someone's approval, your shadow becomes stronger while you become weaker. This is why so many people feel exhausted without understanding why. They are not fighting the world, they are fighting themselves. Carl Jung spent his entire life exploring one question. What happens when a human being stops running from the darkest parts of his own mind? The answer changed psychology forever. Because Jung discovered almost no one wants to hear. The darkness inside you is not your enemy. It is unfinished power, ignored strength, untouched potential. And the longer you reject it, the more control it gains over your decisions, your emotions, your relationships, and ultimately, your destiny. Today, we are going to walk directly into that darkness. Not to become monsters, but to understand why the men who integrate their shadow become almost impossible to manipulate. And once you truly understand this, you will never look at yourself the same way again.
The shadow does not disappear just because you refuse to look at it. It waits patiently, silently, until the perfect moment to take control. Think about the last time you exploded over something small. It wasn't because of that moment. It was because of every moment before it. Every insult you swallowed, every boundary you failed to defend, every truth you were too afraid to speak. Nothing simply disappears inside the human mind. It transforms. Suppressed anger becomes resentment. Suppressed fear becomes anxiety. Suppressed desire becomes obsession. And suppressed power becomes self-destruction. This is why Jung warned that what remains unconscious does not stay harmless. It shapes your decisions without asking permission. It whispers when you think you're making logical choices. It pushes when you believe you're acting freely. And the terrifying part is that most people never realize they are being controlled by themselves. Look carefully at the people who trigger you the most. The arrogant man, the ruthless businessman, the narcissist, the woman who seems completely fearless. Why them? Why do they create such a strong emotional reaction inside you while someone else barely notices them? Jung believed those reactions are rarely about them. They are reflections of something buried inside you. The qualities you reject in yourself become impossible to ignore when you see them in someone else. This is called projection. And once you understand projection, you begin to see human behavior very differently. The man who constantly accuses others of lying often fears his own dishonesty. The man obsessed with controlling everyone is usually terrified of losing control himself. The person who judges weakness may be hiding the deepest insecurity of all. We do not hate what is different from us. We hate what reminds us of ourselves. That realization changes everything. Because now, every emotional trigger becomes information. Every irritation becomes a mirror. Every conflict becomes an opportunity to discover the parts of yourself that have remained hidden for years. This is why self-awareness is far more dangerous than manipulation. A manipulator can only control what you refuse to understand. The moment you understand your own darkness, their greatest weapon stops working. Guilt loses its power. Fear loses its grip. Shame loses its chains, because no one can use against you what you have already accepted within yourself. That is the difference between a man who knows his shadow and a man who spent his life running from it. One becomes impossible to manipulate. The other spends his entire life living according to someone else's script. And this is only the beginning, because the next truth is even more disturbing. It explains why the person you pretend to be may actually be the biggest prison you have ever created.
The greatest prison is not the one built with walls. It is the one built with expectations. Carl Jung called it the persona, the version of yourself you created so the world would accept you. The polite one, the reliable one, the agreeable one, the man who never says too much, never asks for too much, never becomes too emotional, too ambitious, too dangerous. At first, the mask protects you. It helps you belong. It helps you survive. But slowly, something changes. You stop wearing the mask. The mask starts wearing you. One day, you wake up and realize that you have spent years living a life that was designed to make everyone else comfortable, except you. This is why so many successful people still feel empty. They achieved everything their persona wanted, but almost nothing their soul desired. The applause was real, the promotions were real, the money was real. But the man behind the mask remained invisible. Jung believed that true psychological growth begins the moment you stop asking, "Who do they want me to become?" and start asking, "Who am I?" without their approval. That question terrifies most people because it forces you to meet someone you have avoided your entire life. Your real self. Not the polished version, not the impressive version, not the version built for social media. The version that exists when nobody is watching. That is where real confidence is born. Not from compliments, not from followers, not from status, but from certainty. The certainty that you know exactly who you are and who you are not. That kind of certainty cannot be bought. It cannot be taught in a motivational seminar. It cannot be borrowed from another man's success. It has to be earned through solitude, through honesty, through confronting every uncomfortable truth you have spent years avoiding. This is why the strongest men are rarely the loudest. They do not waste energy trying to prove themselves because they already know their value. Silence becomes confidence. Discipline becomes power. Presence becomes influence. Without saying a word, they change the atmosphere of the entire room. People feel it before they understand it, because authenticity has a presence that performance can never imitate. But Jung warned that authenticity alone is not enough, because hidden beneath the persona, there are even deeper forces guiding your behavior. Ancient patterns, universal instincts, psychological blueprints older than civilization itself. He called them archetypes. And once you understand how they shape the masculine mind, you begin to realize why some men naturally command respect, while others spend their entire lives chasing it. Because real power has never been about domination. It has always been about integration. And that changes everything. Among all of Jung's ideas, none is more misunderstood than the archetypes. Most people hear the word and imagine mythology, old stories, ancient symbols, forgotten civilizations. But Jung saw something different. He believed these patterns were alive, not in books, not in legends, inside you. Every man carries the warrior, the king, the magician, the lover, not as personalities, but as psychological forces. When they remain unconscious, they create chaos. But when they are integrated, they create extraordinary power. Take the warrior. Most men think being a warrior means aggression, violence, constant conflict.
Jung disagreed. A true warrior does not fight because he is angry. He fights because he knows what must be protected. He is disciplined, not impulsive, calm, not reckless, dangerous only when necessary. That is real strength. Now, look at the king. The immature king demands attention, needs validation, controls through fear. But the integrated king does not chase respect, he creates it. His presence brings order. His decisions bring stability. His confidence does not come from applause. It comes from self-mastery. Then comes the magician, perhaps the most misunderstood of them all. The magician does not seek power through force. He seeks understanding. He observes before he speaks. He studies before he acts. While everyone else reacts emotionally, the magician sees patterns hidden beneath the surface. He understands that information is often more powerful than intimidation. And finally, the lover. Not the romantic fantasy people imagine. The lover is the part of you that fuels life deeply. Beauty, purpose, connection, gratitude. Without the lover, success becomes empty. Without the warrior, kindness becomes weakness. Without the king, leadership becomes impossible. Without the magician, action becomes blind. Most men live with one archetype while suppressing the others. That imbalance creates suffering. One man becomes endlessly aggressive, another becomes endlessly passive. One cannot stop chasing approval, another cannot trust anyone. Jung believed wholeness does not come from choosing one identity, it comes from integrating them all. The warrior gives courage, the king gives direction, the magician gives wisdom, the lover gives meaning. Together, they create a man who cannot easily be manipulated, because he is no longer divided against himself. He no longer searches outside for the qualities he has already developed within. And that is why real power never looks desperate. It looks calm, quiet, certain, because the loudest man in the room is rarely the strongest. The strongest man is usually the one who no longer needs to prove anything. But even after integrating all of these forces, one final obstacle still remains. The obstacle that has destroyed more lives than fear, failure, or rejection combined. And overcoming it is what separates transformation from temporary motivation.
There is one final illusion that keeps most people trapped for life. The illusion that becoming stronger means becoming someone else. Carl Jung believed the opposite. Transformation is not about creating a new identity. It is about remembering the one you abandoned. The strongest version of you has never been missing, only buried. Buried beneath fear, buried beneath shame, buried beneath years of conditioning. Every time you ignored your intuition, you buried it deeper. Every time you chose acceptance over authenticity, you buried it deeper. Every time you betrayed yourself to avoid rejection, another piece of your identity disappeared, until one day you forgot who you really were. This is why so many people spend their entire lives searching for purpose, not because purpose is difficult to find, but because they have become strangers to themselves. Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you were always meant to be, not the version your parents expected, not the version society rewarded, not the version your fears created, the real one, the complete one, the integrated one. This journey is uncomfortable because every truth demands the death of an illusion. You cannot discover yourself while protecting the lies that made you comfortable. Every excuse must collapse. Every mask must fall. Every false identity must be questioned. Only then does clarity appear, and clarity is terrifying, because once you see the truth, you can never go back to pretending. That is why most people stop here. They would rather live a familiar lie than face an unfamiliar truth. But not everyone. Some people choose differently. They choose responsibility over comfort, truth over approval, growth over certainty. Those people become impossible to manipulate because manipulation depends on unconscious fear, and fear cannot control the person who has already looked directly into it.
That is the gift hidden inside shadow work. Not perfection, not endless happiness. Freedom. Freedom from pretending. Freedom from unconscious patterns. Freedom from becoming the prisoner of your own mind. The world may never notice the moment you change. There will be no applause, no celebration, no audience, only silence. But inside, everything changes. The fear that once controlled you becomes awareness. The anger that once consumed you becomes discipline. The pain that once weakened you becomes wisdom. And the darkness you spent years fearing becomes the very thing that lights your path. Because the man who knows himself completely no longer fears what lives inside him. He fears only one thing: returning to the life he lived before he finally opened his eyes. And perhaps that is what Carl Jung wanted us to understand all along. The battle was never between you and the world. It was always between you and the parts of yourself you refused to embrace. The moment you stop fighting your own nature, you stop living as a divided man. And when a man is no longer divided against himself, very little in this world can defeat him.
If you have made it this far, then something inside you already knows this was never just another video. Because knowledge changes nothing. Awareness changes nothing. Even understanding changes nothing until you decide to act. Carl Jung did not spend decades studying the human mind so people could collect interesting ideas. He wanted people to transform, to stop running, to stop pretending, to stop living at war with themselves. The shadow does not ask to control your life. It asks to be acknowledged, to be understood, to be integrated. Because the parts of yourself you refuse to accept will always find a way to control you from the darkness. But the moment you turn around and face them, they lose their power over you. That is the beginning of freedom. Not freedom from pain, not freedom from failure, but freedom from becoming your own greatest obstacle. The world will continue to test you. People will still disappoint you. Life will still challenge you. But something will be different. You. Because once you truly know yourself, approval becomes unnecessary. Rejection becomes survivable. Failure becomes a lesson. Silence becomes peace. And fear becomes a signal instead of a prison. That is what integration creates. Not a perfect man, a complete one. A man who can stand alone without feeling lonely, who can remain calm without becoming weak, who can be kind without becoming naive, who can become powerful without becoming cruel. That is the man Carl Jung believed every human being was capable of becoming. So before you leave, ask yourself one honest question. What part of yourself have you spent your entire life hiding? Your anger? Your ambition? Your courage? Your voice? Or perhaps the person you were always meant to become? Because the answer to that question may change everything. If this video made you see yourself a little more clearly, don't let this be another moment that fades away tomorrow. Carry it with you. Think about it. Question yourself. Observe yourself. Because the greatest discovery you will ever make is not about the world. It is about the person looking back at you every morning in the mirror. And remember, the man who integrates his shadow cannot be defeated. Not because life becomes easier, but because there is no longer anything inside him that life can use against him.